once again for joining my channel. Welcome to Pretty on a Plane with me, Pretty. Thanks for joining my channel. This channel is about travel adventures, travel tips that I've learned over the years, traveling as a black girl, traveling as an African, solo travel, all the good stuff about travel that I've learned through time while traveling. So in this video, I'm going to go into something I've been asked quite a lot. How do you afford to travel? So travel doesn't always have to break the bank. Sis, it doesn't always have to be thousands and thousands and thousands that you spend and you come back home and you are just like, what have I done to my bank? But yes, it's great, to experience the 4-5 star. I've done travel on both ends, on the 4-5 star travel, luxury, everything. And I've also done it on the budget friendly end, the more affordable end, where you come back home and you just like, okay, that was fun, that was amazing. And I still have money for that 25 rands per liter of petrol. Anyway, so yeah, travel doesn't always have to be expensive. So I'm gonna share with you what I've learned over the years of travel about saving for traveling, finding budget friendly things to do, and let's get right into it. Disclaimer, what I'm gonna say is not for everybody. Everybody has their own way of going about traveling. People choose what they want to experience, how they want to experience their traveling. Some of the things I will share are not for everyone, so please don't come at me. If you hear something that I mention and it's not for you, then it's not for you. But this is for people who might be interested in getting started in their travel adventures and how they can go about funding it. So let's get right into it. So first and foremost, when you want to fund your budget travel, or when you want to travel on a budget, you want to have a savings account. So you want to set up a savings account that is specifically geared at travel, right? So you don't want your savings account where you have your other life savings or whatever emergency funds or whatever funds you might already have. Forget that savings account. Open up a savings account where you put money directly into it, specifically for travel. See, I plan my travel way ahead of time. And by way ahead of time, I mean way ahead of time, like at least a year or even years of it. So I have a list of countries that I would like to go to, a bucket list, if you will. But on this list is also timelines. So I know that I want to go to a specific place at a specific time. And what this allows is, this allows you time for you to plan properly. And planning is the best thing you can do for yourself when you want to travel on a budget. So this allows you time to plan, and it also gives you time for you to save up enough so you can enjoy your trip without worrying about the funding of it when it's closer to the time, because things get more expensive the longer you wait to book them. So have a savings account. So if, for example, I'm planning to travel to France next March, right? I'll say, okay, March 2023, I'm going to France. So France is going to cost X amount of money. So I'll say X amount of money divided by the time period till then. In this instance, it'll be 12 months. So it'll be X amount of money divided by 12 months. And that will allow me to save that amount of money into the savings account every single month. That way, you don't have the burden of putting a chunk of money into your travel. You do it over time. Secondly, side hustles, side jobs, other things other than your profession. So I'm in finance, but I do other things on the side that allows me to save up a bit of money towards travel, more than I would from just my normal salary. I know this is a luxury that I have, and a lot of people don't have, or some people don't have the luxury of one time having to be able to put additional time into other things. Secondly, the luxury of extra money going towards travel. But I'm taking advantage of that. And if you are in a position where you can do that, do it. Just do it, sis, and do that extra side thing and put money into it. And okay, this is not a video about side hustle. This is just about funding affordable travel. Anyway, so the other thing that you want to do, you want to time your travel right? So by what do I mean by timing it right? Timing it right means traveling when other people are not traveling. So good example, if you want to go to the US, you don't want to go to the US during 4th of July, in the week of 4th of July, or time leading up to 4th of July, because things are going to be more expensive. It's a time off for a lot of Americans. They take time off during that period, and it means that a lot more Americans are traveling, meaning things are going to be more expensive. Things are going to be expensive for you coming into America. So you want to avoid 4th of July when going to America. Another time to not travel, if you can, get away with it. People make the mistake of booking their time off from work in December and traveling during the Christmas holidays. If you can get away with it, don't do it. Christmas holidays is a time when everybody is taking time off, so you are in a position where things are more expensive to travel. And also, if you travel outside of those busy times, you get to explore places that are usually very filled with tourists, that are usually touristy, when there's less people traveling, and things cost less. So avoid Christmas time as well if you can get away with it. One thing that as a South African you want to avoid as well, the time that you as a South African want to avoid, is Easter. Easter is very big in South Africa. If you want to travel locally as a South African, do not travel during Easter time. So for those who are not in South Africa, if you want to come to South Africa during Easter, so Easter is around end of March, first week of April. So avoid holidays where around Good Friday. Find out when Good Friday is in South Africa and avoid traveling that time, because Good Friday is followed by a series of other holidays in South Africa, meaning a lot of South Africans take that time off. And what happens is that then a lot of places are inflated because, you know, it's a busy season. So avoid that time. So yes, find a time that is outside of peak for the place you want to go to and travel during that time. Okay, so the next thing is you want to travel lean, travel light. And by travel light, I don't mean carry a light suitcase. Okay, yes, you can carry a light suitcase. It's always good to travel light with a light suitcase. But what I mean is travel lean, travel light. Find the best deals for flights and accommodation. The best deals for flights and accommodation can be found by doing a lot of research. So if you want to book your flights, you go to websites such as Skyscanner, Budget Air, Cheap Flights. I use those three specifically. Okay, this is not an advert. This is not sponsored. This is just stuff that I use. So I use those three websites, and the great thing about them is that they give you alternative times, the alternative airlines where it would be ideal to travel. That way you have the chance to actually compare different airlines, different times, what works best. And that also is great, right? Because then you can be able to see what is best in your budget without breaking the bank, and then seeing which ones are cheaper. Just a tip, when you're browsing through the website, use incognito mode. So cookies are little nasty things that will follow you through the internet. And if you use the normal browser without going incognito, your search might actually end up increasing in costs. By the time you decide to book your budget will be blown, because then the flight will be more expensive than you initially planned. And just another tip when you're booking flights, this is not for everybody. This is when my disclaimer comes into play. This is not for everybody, but consider a long layover. I know a lot of people don't like a long layover. They're like, oh, why would I want to travel for 30 hours? But listen, hear me out. Longer layovers allow you to experience and explore other places in between, right? So if, for example, I'm traveling through London, right, as an example, and I have a 12-hour layover in London, I can leave my bags in the airport and go exploring the city and get to spend a day in London, and then come back to the airport and continue on your trip. That way you got to experience a trip within your own trip. This is not for everyone, I said, but like I said, it's not for everyone. But I think it's a fun way of going exploring. I like doing that in some instances because then it's a short little trip. It's like a little short left within your overall trip. So that's something you might consider doing. And most of the time, the longer layovers are more expensive because a lot of people avoid them. And while we're on the long layovers, if you're traveling through Singapore, if you're gonna fly via Singapore Airlines, just a little note: Singapore Airlines, Singapore Airport. If you have a stay over, I can't really remember the time frame, but if you have a stay over of a certain time frame in the Singapore Airport, Singapore actually gives you a free tour of Singapore. I mean, how amazing. So it's free. It's free. So be sure to take advantage of that. Fly into Singapore airport and get the free tour. And they also give you free money to spend at the airport. So go to the information desk when you get to the airport and ask for the money to spend in the airport. So little things like that also count. I know that some airports also can book you free accommodation, so maybe also look into that as well. Okay, so while we're traveling lean, the next thing on traveling lean is accommodation. So it's always great to have hotels, because it's not always guaranteed, but like it's always great to have hotels. But alternatives to using hotels is hostels. If you're going to places where hostels are user friendly, like America or good parts of Europe, use hostels. Hostels are not always this dirty, filthy place where you squashed into one place. No, some hostels offer single rooms if you prefer, or you can be in a room with one or two other males if you are male, or females, or even mixed if you're comfortable. So the greatest thing for me about hostels, especially if you're traveling solo, is that you get to meet people. You get to meet people, to interact people, and also a lot of hostels will plan group activities that are free. So you'll get to experience free excursions and excursions that you do with other people. So consider staying in hotels. Sorry, not hotels, hostels. Also, another great alternative is Airbnb. Airbnb, you can pretty much get opportunity to stay in a mansion if you want to, or get a room in someone's house and have a host. So Airbnb is also a really good alternative. So that's what travel lean means. And so you want to have a budget. You want to have a budget that is set. I have a spreadsheet for my travel plans, right? So you can have a spreadsheet, an Excel spreadsheet, or you can even have a notebook where you write all your costs and you spread it out over the time period of how long you plan to travel. So my spreadsheet is separated into different sections. I have the transport section, I have accommodation, I have food, I have excursions, I have other, and I have a currency fluctuation built in. I'll come to that. So in the transport section, it's separated into flights, being international flights to get to where I'm going, and local flights if I'm going to meet those, right? And also transportation locally. So local transport can be either the Uber that you're going to use, the bus that you're going to use, the metro that you're going to use, whatever, a ferry, whatever method of transport that you're going to use locally, factor that into that. But now the thing that you need to do, the trick that you need to consider is looking for local deals. Example of New York. If you go to New York and you're going to be there for 7 days or longer, you can get the 7-day pass on the subway card instead of you loading money every time you want to travel. It's a smart way of making sure that you get a lower deal for the travel, for the transport cost, instead of spending money every single time you want to do it. So that's a good one to look for in travel. The second one to consider is the food. So food budget is always look up how much it costs on average to eat for food in the place you're going to, the country you're going to. So it's always a very good idea to make sure that you look up the cost of what it would cost you to eat, right? And also another good thing is ask the locals. When you're there, ask the locals where they eat. In my experience, that's always the best food. You get just to experience, to immerse yourself in the culture, eat the best food, and it's less expensive. And if you're gonna stay at like an Airbnb or a hostel, you can always just go grocery shopping. I mean, yeah, you go to the grocery store or supermarket or whatever you call it, go there and buy groceries that you're going to need for that time. That then allows you to have all your meals scheduled, not scheduled, but like, all your meals are planned out that you can have your groceries, but you can still have the budget to eat out and experience like even high-end restaurants that you can only find in those places. And, finding out from the locals what to eat is always great because a lot of countries or touristy places have restaurants that are aimed at tourists, meaning the palate is specifically, the food is aimed at the international palate, if you will. But if you find out from the locals, you get to eat the real local food, and that is always the best, I tell you. And okay, so yeah, with excursions, then you have to book them ahead in advance. Look them up ahead in advance, but you can also ask the locals. That always helps as well. And when I said factor in the currency, the rand, for instance, fluctuates a lot, right? The rand is not always very stable, so you need to have a cushion in your plan, in your budget. A year from now, the rand to dollar might not be the same exchange, so you need to think about that when you are planning ahead. And while we're talking about currency, when you're planning a trip, right, go where your currency is strong, right? What I mean by that is that if you are going to travel from the US, for instance, the UK, or other countries in Europe, your scope of travel is much bigger because your currency is stronger in a lot of places. So you have a lot more flexibility in terms of places you can go to. But if, for instance, you're coming in with rands or other currencies that are not as strong, you want to go to places where your rand is stronger. Your rand goes a longer way. So this, for example, would likely be countries in Africa, in Asia, Southeast Asia is always good, and there's always so much to do in that area of the world. South America, and sometimes even Eastern Europe. So you want to go where your rands are stretched longer. So go where your randella is bigger. Think about that. Research those places. And I think the last thing you want to take into consideration is choose visa-free places. Remember, check out my video on visa-free places as a South African. But yeah, choose visa-free places. If you choose visa-free places, then you don't have to worry about factoring in visa costs into your travel. Your travel becomes cheaper. So that brings up, no, that's not the last. This is the last thing. So this is a great tip, right? If you're going to travel to a place, look up free excursions to do in that place. So if you're into the arts, I'm into the arts. So if you're into the arts and history, a lot of places have free museums and art galleries that you can explore for free, sis. For free. So if you're gonna go, for instance, to Washington DC, you can visit the Smithsonian's museums. So a bunch of museums that are in one space that have amazing history, amazing art that you can explore for free. So look up free excursions. A lot of places and a lot of countries have free excursions. You just have to put the time into researching it. And I think the best tip I can give you now is just take your time. Put in the time, put in the research, plan ahead. And that brings me to the end of my video for today. So thank you for joining me. Do the right thing. like, subscribe, click on the bell so that next time when I post the video, you are aware and you can come join me again. So thank you so much for joining my video. Thank you for joining Pretty on a Plane. Till next time we speak again. Love yous.